You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
You're listening to the Show Jumping Podcast, a fun and informative show for riders, owners, trainers, grooms, and fans of all levels.
I'm Kristy McCormick in Saratoga Springs, New York.
And I'm Kimmy Carlson in St. Louis, Missouri.
And you are listening to the Show Jumping Podcast, where we talk about everything horse related, everything show jumping related.
Relyne GI is a natural, long-term alternative that goes beyond masking symptoms. This unique blend of gut-friendly hyaluronan and wellness-boosting beta-glucan works with your horse's body to soothe and protect their digestive system. Unlike traditional therapies that can disrupt digestion and nutrient absorption, Relyne GI leaves your horse's natural balance intact. But don't take our word for it. Relyne GI is field tested by leading veterinarians and backed by peer-reviewed research, including a study by Dr. Nathan Slovis, showing it effectively reduces gastric ulcers in active horses. Plus, it's Clean Sport certified and safe for competition use. Head over to resolvet.com. That's RESOLVET.com and use code SJP at checkout for 10% off, linked in our show notes.
Today, we are lucky enough to be joined by one of our younger members of the show jumping community, JJ Torano. Welcome, JJ.
Hi, thank you, guys.
Let's note first now that JJ is the youngest rider in history to have won the USEF Dover Seat Medal Finals. I'm already saying that name. What is it even called now, JJ?
Dover Saddlery Hunt Seat
Dover
Medal
Saddlery
Finals.
Hunt Seat. Yeah, Kimmy. I think back when you did this, we were calling it just the USEF Medal Finals. Kimmy, for our listeners, she won the same class 17 years ago. And the two of them, both JJ and Kimmy, both rode with North Run with Missy Clark and John Brennan. So the three of us haven't gotten to chat before, but this is a nice connection. JJ, let's start with just walking us through, first of all, give us a little bit of your background. How long have you been riding? Who are your parents? And how was that day for you? Walk us through that.
Yeah, my parents are Jimmy and Danielle Torano, and I was kind of always involved in horses since I was born, basically. My parents have done it for a while since they were kids, and from the beginning, I kind of just always rode a little bit, but until like maybe last year, I didn't get like really into it. I played baseball for a while, and that was kind of what I thought I wanted to do for a couple of years. And then like last year, I was playing baseball for my school team. But that actually went during the WEF season in Wellington. So I played 1 year of that, but I kind of had to decide because it was a little too much with doing baseball and riding all at the same time, because I would have to get picked up early and miss practices. So I managed that 1 year, but after that I kind of focused on riding. And
how long ago was that? So how long ago was the decision made to really focus on the riding?
That was actually before this WEF.
This 2024, before this past year.
Yeah.
All right. So that's not a ton of time for you to really be taking this seriously. Kimmy, I think you were about the same age when you at 13 you are, right? Or I know you're 14 now, but you were 13 at the time. Is that right?
Yeah, correct.
All right. Kimmy, you were about the same age when you had to kind of make that serious commitment. Isn't that right?
Yeah, actually, it was right around the same age. I did not win the medal finals that year.
You did not, no.
But yeah, no, I was a serious freestyle skier up until really this summer. I turned 14, so for a long time. So there was 2 or 3 years there where I was kind of riding, skiing in the winter and riding in the off season. And like you said, JJ, at some point that you kind of have to pick one, or at least I did. And it was, I believe the year I showed is 13, slash maybe even the next year was the first year that I did not ski, and went to Florida and really took horses kind of seriously full time for the rest of my junior career. So, that's interesting to hear about the baseball. How do you feel about that decision at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was kind of nice to play a different sport, but I think ever since like starting this WEF was where I really like excelled and really developed more than I had been. And I think this past year has really been like very successful for me, and I've learned a lot in riding and I've developed a lot in riding. So I think since the start of this year and even midway through the summer was really like the turning point of my riding.
And when did Missy and John start helping you?
I mean, obviously my parents have always been friends with them, but Tryon in May of 2023, we took this horse on trial, this equitation horse. It was my first equitation horse, and we took him on trial and we ended up buying him, and he kind of got me qualified for everything. And then Missy and John had this other horse named Lumineer that I did at just medal finals. I only qualified for medal finals that year.
Okay. And so this is last year we're talking about, and that was your first year doing the medal finals?
Correct. Yeah.
Got it.
And then once we got back down to Florida, Missy put me on Eddie, Favorite Edition Z, the horse I rode last week. She put me on him. I rode him for the first time at her farm, and I think the next week I showed him for the first time and I won the medal. And then maybe the next week or the week after, he went up to Ocala for the wet class where Eleanor Rudnicki showed him, and she went in the first round and she was winning after the whole first round went. And Missy called my mom and told her that she had to buy the horse, basically. And she said
before someone else does.
Yeah, she said she didn't have an option. So my mom thought about it for a little while, and then about maybe an hour later, she called Missy back and said that she'll buy it. So really, he was maybe one of the best purchases of the year for my riding. He's helped me develop a lot, and obviously we've been very successful together.
Yeah, and it really comes down to who you're sitting on, doesn't it? And that's one of the things in this sport that's a real challenge. So it sounds like you were nice, and the right horse came along at the right time, and you were lucky enough to have parents that said we can do this. So that's wonderful.
Familiar story, isn't it, Kristy?
Isn't it? Yeah. Yes. Kimmy, why don't you share a brief? I know we've talked about Tommy before, but share our medal finals winning horse story, how we acquired him.
Medal finals, my horse of a lifetime for sure. Sundance, his barn name is Tommy. He is still alive and retired at our
And side note, I believe, JJ, that your father, JJ Torano, did judge Kimmy several times on Tommy. Isn't that right, Kimmy?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. I'm sure he did.
Yeah. And he came into our barn. Well, it would have been about the same age, I think, when I was 13, maybe that winter, as just a young sales horse, very green. And I remember Kristy sat on him once, and flatted him around and was like, ew, I don't know. And then she sat on him the next day and jumped him a little bit, and he was still very green and couldn't land the right lead and still had a long ways to go. But you even then felt something very, very special in him. And pretty soon after that, we decided to hang on to him. I know we actually He got tried. He was for sale for some of that year and did get tried a few times, and that didn't work out. And then I think in one of those trials, we kind of had that discussion of like, I think we keep this one. I don't think we let this one go. So a little bit of luck there that he didn't get sold within those first few months when he was for sale. And then from then on out, it was just like, nope, he's ours. And that worked out really nicely in the end, a few years later.
Yeah, it just turns into, kind of like when Missy called your mom, JJ, and says you have no choice. When sometimes they just show up and then you go, we got to keep this one. So, okay, so you've been paired with this awesome horse. You have great trainers. You're committed to riding. I want to interject one part here where we actually just on our last podcast interviewed Mario Soto. I know you know him. Is that right?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So Mario is a sports psychologist, I'm sorry, and has been helping some riders over the last quite a while. And Kimmy and I just talked about this with him. We're really working on, show preparation and nerves and confidence. So can you tell us a little bit about how long you've been working with Mario and how that has influenced your riding?
Yeah, he's worked with a lot of horse show people that we know, that we're friends with.
Okay.
And a couple months ago, my mom talked to Will Simpson, and he was telling us about Mario. And I think my first meeting was with him maybe a month ago. I talked to him on the phone once just so we could talk and get to know each other. And we had my first meeting like a month ago. And then he came to Harrisburg in person, and he was there the whole week. And I talked to him there. And yeah, he talks to me and everyone he works with about how to handle our nerves, and depending on the person, how to manage their head and thoughts and situations. And I think he, for sure, with all the years of knowing the sport, he gets to know the horse world and the people he works with. And I think he helps, he really helps help us know how to manage our head and thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
JJ,
yeah, and go ahead, Kimmy.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit, obviously leaving any, sort of confidential conversations you want to leave off the table, but just, for your own self, the last few podcasts, including the one with Mario, have been on kind of nerves and pressure and how different people feel and handle that differently. And so I think the medal finals are just such a great example of that, especially with young riders, and really figuring out how they handle pressure sometimes, especially the first time indoors or your first time in, the second round or in a test or being on top or whatever that first is. And for you, how have you sort of noticed how, kind of when you get nervous and how you kind of feel that, and how you manage that in an environment like the medal finals?
Yeah, he told me in the beginning, going into indoors, he knew that these were indoors and this next couple of weeks were going to be a big deal. But he told me that I have to kind of treat it like just another show. I can't overthink it and know like, oh, this is indoors. This is all of it. This is the end of the year. Like, I have to win this week. He told me like, just treat it as another week of showing and ride it like I do at maybe a schooling show or just practicing or having a lesson with Missy or my dad. He told me I just really can't overthink what show I'm at.
I have a question. You are such a wonderful rider, and I'm sure at a very young age your parents had high hopes for you. Was the discussion had about your possibility of winning this final going into it? Was that even on the table? Was it a surprise when it happened? Normally at this age, that's maybe a pipe dream, it feels like, but you are in a pretty, I would say higher end situation, having parents that are so deep into the sport. So what was that like? And as far as expectation goes?
Yeah, thank you. He told me, he says I'm probably he said to me, he's glad he gets to work with me because I'm one of his youngest and best athletes that he's worked with.
Okay.
And he he said to me that he thought this year I was going to win at least two of the finals. And he
meaning Mario. Is that what you meant, or your dad?
Yeah, Mario.
Mario, yeah, sure. Okay.
And he counted Prita States. So all in that week, he was happy for me, saying, he was like, I told you so. But yeah, for sure, he was happy with me. And I think he did help with that whole week after, just talking to him I talked to him one time online and on a Zoom call, and then I talked to him once there. But I really do think he helps manage my head and nerves.
What's one takeaway that you can share with our listeners that might help them? Like, is there one little thing in particular that he said, or something that you remembered as you were riding that he might have told you, or just an encouragement that you had to then remind yourself of?
Yeah, like I said a little while ago, just to not overthink and treat it like another show.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people and trainers say it, take a deep breath before walking in. But he also said that to me many times, and I really do think that helps walking into the ring.
Actually breathing before you go in there. Yeah. Kimmy, I think you and I used to do that. We used to say, okay, breathe it out. Like, just get out whatever is all the tension that you have right now before you go in there. And it's hard to switch your brain from all the anxiety of what's coming, whether you're excited about it or whether you're nervous about it. It can feel a little overwhelming. And if you can find the place to take that breath, that's great. All right, give us the day. How did your first round, second round, and test feel as you went through your day?
Yeah, that whole week was a little bit tiring with the hours of riding, but
some of our listeners are not familiar with, as we are, as to how that schedule goes for training. So just give us a rundown of what that feels like, or what that is.
Yeah, the beginning of the week I had Prita States and the Hunters. The Prita States went at night, and Hunters were first class in the morning. So I was there from like 7 until 8 to 9 each night. And then the day before medal finals, I had to wake up at 4:45 to walk the medal warm-up class at like 5:30. And then I was there until like 8:30 that night because of Prita States.
Mm-hmm. And then Prita States meaning, for people listening, the junior jumper classes that are there.
The junior jumper class. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the day of the class, I woke up at 5 for a 6 o'clock walk. And then I went 66 in the first round order. So,
and how'd you feel about that order? And so there were there over 200 this year, or
no?
less?
There was like 170 this year.
170. Okay, so you're going probably around 10-ish, 10:30 or so, mid morning.
Yeah, around that time. Okay. Yeah.
How did you like that spot?
Yeah, I actually like that spot. I didn't go way at the end. I feel like going at the end sometimes can make you more nervous, but I also didn't want to go too early. So I was not in the middle, but I was right in the middle of the group there.
Sure. Kimmy, I think what is your number? 252, if I can remember that?
Yeah, there were just over 300 that year. I think before they kind of reined it in with, upping the qualification standards a little bit. And I went 252nd, which is
a long day.
Very long way to wait from walking the course to actually walking in the ring. I'll tell you that. I think I actually spent most of that time, back at the barn. Just, I watched a few, I would come up and then just leave and almost treat it like a new day at that point. And that came with its own challenges for sure.
So JJ, you go 66 and then you still have a long day of waiting until the second round.
Yeah, after or before the first round, before I went, I got to watch the first 50 go.
Yep.
And then there's a drag break. So I went and got on him at the other ring. They had the other show ring open just to warm up and whatever.
Okay.
So I got on there during the drag break. I was about 16 out just so I could flat, take my time. I still had to walk all the way down to the main schooling area. So I just flatted up there, jumped a couple jumps, walked a lot, just take my time and help them chill out a little bit. So then we walked down. I walked for a while until I was in jumping, like however many out we wanted to start jumping. Then we started our normal school. And once we were at the schooling area, we did our normal school and went in the ring.
And normal school, give us your 3-sentence description of that. Do you like jumping fewer jumps? I know Kimmy's pretty familiar, and I am too from working there. But for people listening, are you on and jumping a lot, a little before you go in?
No, we don't do too much before going in because there's still a long day ahead.
Yeah, a lot of jumping coming up. And you probably have been doing, did you have to get up in the middle of the night and do any of those lessons, any of those midnight schools?
No, but I had friends who, after the junior jumper class, had to have lessons that night.
Oof, that's tough, huh?
No, I didn't.
That's
so
good. You got some sleep at that point. All right.
Yeah. No, but we don't jump too many jumps. We do a couple verticals, a couple oxers. Medal finals didn't have them, but if we're at we're at Washington, we'd jump a Liverpool or at USEF finals.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's something in the ring we think we need to practice, maybe a Swedish or something, we practice that in the schooling area.
Okay. Okay. And then, so were you on top after the first round was finished?
Yeah, I was on top after the first round, and then I was top 25 come back for the second round.
Yep.
And I was last to go. They go in reverse order, so I was last to go.
Kimmy, were you on top coming back, or were you lower?
No, I was for the medal finals.
Okay, so both of you had to handle the pressure of coming back. You're not, you kind of at that point are trying to hold your space, right? Because at that point, it's your class to lose, which is different riding that way than trying to move up or, keep coming from the back a little bit, right?
Yeah. One girl that made the test was in 21st place, and she moved up to 6th.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Good for her.
Yeah.
That's the space where you go, you got nothing to lose and you're just putting it all out there. I always actually preferred that for riding because, you could just say, well, I got to do everything I can, and I'm going to take every chance I can to really show off. So what was a little bit of your mindset going in, and could you remember that advice that Mario gave you just to treat it like another class? It's pretty high pressure at that point.
Yeah, for sure. It was a lot of pressure going into the second round. And I was for sure thinking there was one inside turn I didn't do because no one really thought I needed to do it coming on top. It was an inside turn to a double.
So that explanation is because you don't want to risk a mistake. Sometimes it's a little better to be safer and when you're on top, right?
Yeah, it was inside turn to a double, risking. Maybe if I was deep in, not getting out all the way, sticking off the ground. So it's just a safer option to go around, catch a more forward distance in, and get out the double better. But I was for sure thinking not to risk it all. But I definitely did not back in the second round. I had a very good round in the second round. I moved down to second. Ariana Marnell was in second. She moved to first. So in the test.
And what do you think she had over you? Do you think that inside turn put you down? Do you think she was just a little bit better than you in that round?
I actually didn't even see her round because it was kind of like as I was done schooling, like moving up to the gate, like there was a screen in the schooling. I saw like a couple jumps, but I think they said, the judges in the press conference said Ariana in the second round kind of just picked up a gallop and didn't touch the reins. They said it was,
so they were impressed by her.
yeah, they were impressed by her second round. But Rachel Kennedy in the press conference said that the top 3 or top 4, however many of us, were very tight after the second round. She said the whole way we were actually pretty tight.
Okay.
But going into the test, coming in second, it kind of like, I don't know, kind of like gave me a little bit of, I don't know what's the word, like push to want to move up.
Yeah. Okay.
So
you got a little hungry after that happened.
Yeah. On that horse, I feel like very confident walking into the test. He's like automatic at those things. I don't know if you guys watch the test at all, but we didn't have stirrups, and we had to do 2 counter canters and a halt. And I knew I was the only one to hold both counter canters. I mean, we didn't get to watch anyone. They turned the screen off in the schooling area. We didn't get to talk to each other. They kind of isolated all of us.
Okay.
We just got to walk our horses around the schooling area, but we weren't allowed to talk to each other or watch anybody else.
So that's different. Kimmy, what was your test like?
My test was also, there were, I believe, 2 counter canters, and a change of lead through the walk between a straight line of jumps. So it was and 2 trot jumps, which, I was terrible at trot jumps.
We've talked about that, JJ. I don't know how you are at trot jumps, but Kimmy actually fell off at a trot jump right before her medal finals possible test one year. We really struggled with that. So I don't know if you're much better.
Yeah. No, I hate trot jumps.
Well, Jeff Thielme had us do 2 in the test. There were, I think, a couple of counter canters in it. I don't remember whether I don't believe we got to watch. Or same thing. We were a little bit isolated. They didn't have us in the ring. They had us in that small schooling area. It was very, you didn't really know how people had done as you were walking in to do your own test. And I think the whole thing started off with a hand gallop.
Yeah, we started with a hand gallop as well.
Yeah, and you're sort of playing with that calculus of going in, in my case, going into the test last, in your case, very near the top in second.
Did you guys have stirrups?
We did have stirrups. But you kind of playing with that calculus, especially with the hand gallop, of how risky to be. How close am I? How good have other people been? And you don't know. And so you really just have to complete all the questions and ride your own test. And I took a little bit more of a conservative approach with like simple changes through to get the counter lead. And that ended up working out. But had, that person in second really been brilliant and landed the counter leads, who knows what could have not ended up winning, taking that conservative approach. But you don't know when you walk in the ring.
Yeah, exactly.
Missy and John have really trained up my horse, and he's really gotten the equitation very, very quickly. Like I said, he's a machine. He's automatic. After the last jump, we had a turn right out of the corner on the counter lead to a forward 4 and then a halt. And I did the counter canter turn, and I had to move up in the 4 for sure. And then in the air of the last Oxer, I said, whoa, twice to my horse, and he basically landed in the walk.
That's nice.
I was halted maybe a stride and a half on landing, and in the video you can see behind me Rachel, both judges, they were laughing and they couldn't believe it. And the place, as soon as I halted, the place erupted and started screaming. But I honestly didn't know in the beginning that the test had started because I guess people had messed it up and I didn't hear whooping or anything. So I actually said to Maddie Tosh, I said, did they start yet? I was like, what are they waiting for to start? And she goes, no, the third one's already in. And I was fifth to go. I was like, oh, really? But, yeah.
Did that throw you off?
No, because we weren't even allowed to school in the schooling area. We had schooled before. They gave us 10 minutes to school, and then we could only walk in the schooling area before.
So you really just had to kind of then say, okay, I'm coming up here, but you already schooled.
Yeah.
All right. And what I would love to know this from the two of you. What's some of the couple last things or the last thing that Missy or John said to you before you walked in the ring?
They took the trainers to the side. The trainers weren't allowed to talk to us before the test.
Oh, they couldn't talk to you when you were schooling for the test.
No, we walked in the ring. We went lined up in front of the judges, and they announced the test for other people to hear, and they wrote the test on a piece of paper for us. So we got to keep the piece of paper until we walked in the ring, and then, we went once we walked in the ring, all of us together to get the test. Once we walked in, we weren't allowed to talk to our trainers. So we were
all right. That's different. What's the last thing? Well, I guess what's the last thing before then that Missy or John said to you? Or did they not know at that point that they weren't going to see you again?
No, they didn't know.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then you really are on your own.
The last thing before the test was after the second round. I think Missy actually gave me a hug and John high-fived me.
Nice. Good. Well, I mean, at that point too, I mean, everybody's hoping you're winning, but that's such an awesome day anyway. So I'm sure everybody was pumped. That's great. Kimmy, what do they say to you?
Yeah, that's a very different setup. I believe we did wear it school, and they were there. And I apologize if this is totally false and just my memories merging together from many years of finals with Missy and John. But to the best of my memory, Missy said nothing. She just went up to watch. And John Brennan punched me in the thigh and said, "Don't fuck it up," as I was walking up to the end gate.
I bet he said something like that. Hopefully we don't have to bleep that out, but I thought that was appropriate. Okay. All right. So both of you had some sort of, we're behind you. That's great. And actually, Kimmy, I'm going to say, I think that perhaps Missy and John have softened up a little bit in their age. You were a little on the, not early years for sure, but on the pressure years. And they've certainly won this class so many times that hopefully it's not old hat. But JJ, I'm sure they were just saying, good job, kid. Keep it up.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So then your test goes well, obviously.
Yeah. Actually, when did they? After the last one, after Ariana walked out the test, the trainers were allowed to come talk to us.
Okay. That's nice. And then what did they say after that?
I don't know if you guys saw the video on Instagram, but Adam Cromarty, he was the commentator, announcer, one of the two.
Okay.
And he called the video crew and was like, after my test, he called the video crew and was like, go follow Jimmy. He saw me moving. He saw my dad moving down the steps down to the end gate.
Yeah.
And the video crew followed him, and it's on my. I collabed on my Instagram, and he came. My dad was crying, and he came and gave me a high five and hugged me.
Wow, that is awesome. I'm sure it was such an emotional moment for him. I mean, to see you do this, he's judged that class several times, and that's a lot of emotion coming together. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, cool. So, okay, medal finals is over. There's a certain sense of, I don't want to say relief after the class, but you can breathe again, right? Your job, you really did it, and it all came together, and the stars aligned. And then you wake up Monday morning, and it's a little like back to reality. Did that hit you, or did you were you able to keep that high feeling for a bit? Plus, you still have all these finals coming up. The year's not over.
Yeah, for sure. I was excited. I mean, the day was definitely tiring. We went to dinner after me, my parents, Missy John, and my parents' longtime owner, Daryl Portella.
Yep.
And we were sitting there waiting for our table. It was maybe a 30-minute wait. It was busy that night. And we were sitting there waiting for the table, and I actually sat down on one of the chairs in front, and I fell asleep before dinner.
I could see that. Yeah. Your body and your brain are just totally drained then.
Yeah. But yeah, then Monday morning, for sure, I knew and I realized I won medal finals, and I was excited, but I still knew what was to come with 2 more finals to go. So once I come to this horse show, it's back to zero.
That's it, isn't it? It's just back to zero. Kimmy,
yeah.
You've mentioned this on the podcast. Wasn't it just our last discussion with Mario about your next week at New England finals?
That's right. I believe, and I forget the order, but New England finals was between, I think that was a weird year that Washington was before medal finals, year. And so it was medal finals, and then the next one was the Maclay finals. And in between those two, there was a week off, quote, in quotes, and we went up to New England finals. And short story short, I rode a very, very lovely horse that was not Tommy, of Missy and John's, who I love to ride. And I was winning New England finals until I absolutely chipped in the second round. And I think that all that pressure buildup of those expectations, and having a little bit of that sort of humility release of, yes, this still happens to everyone, and each week is its own week, right? And you can win medal finals one week, and make a mistake at a regional finals the next week. But I remember John at the time actually being really happy about that, and saying, like, you kind of needed that. It's been a long time, and to get ready for Maclay finals, to have a little bit of that.
Little humility.
A little bit of a reset. Mentally.
Just because I won doesn't mean I'm the best every day. Yeah. You were the best that day. And then you got to go back and keep proving yourself, because someone else could be better than you the next day.
Yeah. And they probably will be. And that's okay.
Right. JJ, I have 2 more questions from you, and then I'll let you go, because I've kept you for a long time. What are your expectations for these last 2 finals? We've got Washington coming up and Maclay finals, and I'm going to change the word expectation to hope, because expectations sometimes can lead us to, if we don't meet that, then we're failing. So, I'm sure Mario has gone through that with you as far as where to set your expectations. So what are your hopes for the next 2 weeks? And then can you give our listeners your favorite exercise that Missy and John, or even your dad and your mom have given you to do at home, in terms of it could be a school for a big class, it could be a flat work, what's your favorite exercise that you like to do on your equitation horse?
Yeah, for sure. I can't really come into these finals with expectations. I feel like already at the end of this finals, I'm going to be happy with that at medal finals. For sure, I come into the rest of these, Washington and Maclay, with that horse. I feel confident walking in the ring on that horse, knowing we both can do it. So I don't know if I can hope. I mean, obviously it'd be nice if I could win another one, but I still have many more years of this. So I guess I hope to stay consistent and not totally mess it up the next 2.
Not screw it up, like John told Kimmy not to screw it up. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think just practice and gymnastics to do at home. I think the main thing is a lot of lengthening and shortening, like maybe a short gymnastics to a long 4 or 5 stride line, maybe a long 4 to a short 4, or a short 4 to a long 4. Just, I think, a lot of shortening and lengthening for rideability purposes. And maybe this isn't really my favorite, but it for sure helps with riding. This is a little more advanced, but Missy calls it the circle of death, where it's 4 jumps just in a circle. You have to keep going in a circle, either 4 or 5 strides. It's not my favorite to do, but
I'm laughing because
help.
I've used that in so many lessons. Kimmy can attest to that. And
I'm glad this exercise has lived on through the decades.
It's already been on the podcast. Yes, it's already been part of when so JJ, I teach clinics now, and I use that all the time, and I love teaching it because it's really hard, right? And
yeah, it is.
It's so. I would love to hear your if you were teaching someone to do this. Let's just give us a little brief. I'll give the setup. It's set up as 4 jumps on a clock, right? Basically 12, 3, 6, and 9, right? And then go ahead, tell us how we do it.
Depending on the footage of how it's set, it's either, you kind of have to do it a couple times and not get frustrated, because the first time I did it, I was like, this is actually impossible to do. Shoot, I was doing 4. I'm like, this is impossible. And I was kind of getting frustrated, but you have to do it a couple of times to kind of get a hang of it and know what you're doing. So
you're doing 4 strides in between each jump, right? On a circle, which is, you're 4. Turning the whole time.
Yeah. And it took me a while, actually, but finally I figured it out. And once I got all 4, I was like, all right, that's enough. And I went around the ring and I started fist pumping.
I can imagine you would, Kimmy, right? Because that's pretty much how you feel when you can do that.
You feel like a magician when you get one full circle.
It took me a while.
Right?
Yeah, and then you got to do it the other way, and you're like, well, okay, back to square one.
Totally different. Is your horse one-sided at all? Or is he pretty easy both directions?
No, he's pretty easy both directions. He will land both leads fairly easily. Actually, very easily. All I have to do is think about landing each lead, and he does it. He's, like I said, he's automatic. He's a machine.
Sounds like you got a pretty great horse on your hands, huh?
Yeah, I'm lucky to have him.
Well, it sounds like you're a pretty damn good rider too. And I know I have watched you come up the ranks. I've seen you since you were, on small ponies, and watched your parents at the ring. So huge congratulations. Winning any of these finals is just such a feat. Obviously at your age is even harder to do because you don't have the experience behind you. So that's just fantastic. Is there anything else you'd like to add today?
I think that's it.
Okay. We'll be looking to, we'll keep an eye out for you and see how you do the rest of the year and in coming years. And you just made your Sundays in Florida a lot easier without that afternoon medal class having to do it.
I did. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, congrats, JJ.
Thank
Enjoy
you,
it.
guys. Thank you.
Thanks, JJ. Good luck this week.